Hey guys, what's up? It's Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite films. And today I'm going to be doing a review on a film I just watched. Um, I just finished watching maybe about 5 hours ago, and that film is The Substance, written and directed by French director Coralie Farja. So I could have sworn, I swear to God, the first time I saw this, the title of this film, and I saw the director, I'm like, oh, Caroline, and then I'm like, wait, she's French and her name is Coralie, not Coraline or Caroline. Anyways, The Substance is a new film that premiered in this year's Cannes Film Festival. Everybody who went to the Cannes Film Festival this year were probably excited for films like Megalopolis or Kinds of Kindness or Honora, but nobody, not a single soul, well, maybe a couple, but nobody in general expected The Substance to be the new talk of the town. This film surprised a lot of people, and it was one of the most highly anticipated films of the year. Mubi acquired The Substance and finally brought it to North America, and it finally premiered like 4 days ago. And so today I had some free time on my hands and I went to AMC The Grove all by myself to watch The Substance. And essentially, it is a movie about a middle-aged woman who used to be a very famous movie star, a very famous celebrity, played by Demi Moore. Her name is Elizabeth Sparkle. She used to be really famous, but now she is a bit older and she's not as young and bright and beautiful, and the industry throws her away, throws her into the garbage can, until she mysteriously receives something in her pocket. And that basically leads her into the substance, where if she injects herself with the substance, she basically transforms, or I don't want to spoil what happens, but in some way, shape, or form, she becomes a younger, beautiful woman played by Margaret Qualley, and she calls herself Sue. So, this is very much a film about beauty standards, Hollywood, it's about the male gaze, and a lot of people before going to the film must be thinking, okay, this is basically their attempt at recreating Titan. And yeah, it's another French extremist film. It's another Cannes Film Festival darling, I guess you could say. But after having seen both Titan and The Substance, I think both films are extremely different. Or Titan. Both films are really different. Titan is so much more artistic and so much more genre bending. The Substance here is a straightforward body horror nightmare, and it's very much catered to a more mainstream taste. Also, the director is French, but the movie is set in America. It's about Hollywood, and you might say, "Oh, well, this is kind of out of touch because the director is French, and what does she know about American culture?" But this is very much also not about Hollywood, but very much it's a universal topic about, you know, male gaze and impossible beauty standards. Now, this film has been marketed as a really gross film. So I went into the movie thinking, okay, I know it's going to be gross and I'm ready, okay? I'm prepared. And I'm not prepared. Holy shit. This film is insane. I've seen, I guess, my fair share of gross movies, and I've come to a point where if you show me something really gross and bloody, chances are I'm not going to flinch, but The Substance made me flinch. It was insane. In fact, it was so fucking insane that I secretly recorded some audience reactions, because the audience, I watched it with a full house and people were gasping, laughing out loud. It was truly one of the craziest cinematic experiences I've had. So, first of all, going to the film, I'd like you to know that nothing makes sense in this movie. There is no explanation on how the substance works. There is an attempt at explaining that by saying, oh, cells divide, and the substance makes your cells divide and you sort of copy yourself. But it literally doesn't make sense. Um, Elizabeth acquires the substance. How? Why? Does she need to pay for this? We don't know. Why is Elizabeth so good at sewing up a body? And why is she so good at performing injections? We don't know. It doesn't matter. There is not a single lick of nuance or subtlety in this film. And it's fine. And all the men, all the male characters in this film are disgusting perverts. And all these disgusting perverts are old white men, especially the figurehead for this kind of character in this film is played by Dennis Quaid, and his name is conveniently Harvey, like Harvey Weinstein. And again, he's disgusting. That's his entire character. But that's okay. This movie doesn't need nuance. It doesn't need complexity or layers. It's super in your face, it's super satirical, and it's aware that it's super satirical. It's very funny. And at the same time, this film is very formally competent as well. It's competently shot, competently edited. There are a lot of quirky wide shots, extreme close-ups, interesting use of lighting, colors, strange angles, choppy editings, crash zooms, and every single scene carries the next scene with a lot of style and grace. This is a lot of playing with film form, almost as close to Park Chan as possible stylistically, which I really, really like. Definitely Coralie Farja has seen a lot of video essays about the art and craft of filmmaking, but there are also a lot of other influences, including, of course, David Cronenberg. I mean, if you've seen The Fly or Videodrome, you know that Cronenberg has a lot of influence on this. David Lynch as well. Some shots on this film looks like Lost Highway. Some other creatures or creations in this film look like Elephant Man, and also Junji Ito's Tomie. Again, I'm trying my best not to spoil it, but there's definitely a moment towards the ending of the film where I'm like, this reminds me of the Tomie thing, if you know what I mean. Also, there's one shot in this film that immediately reminds me of the second Kizumonogatari film. And I know, what are the chances that a French filmmaker would watch such a niche anime? But then, the co-writer of Pulp Fiction watched Konosuba, so what are the chances? The body horror elements of the substance escalates and gets exponentially grosser as the film progresses, very much like a Junji Ito story. Again, I don't know, maybe it's a far stretch, but it's not entirely impossible that Coralie Farja was partly inspired by Junji Ito. I mean, if you think of Junji Ito, you'd know that he is a man who loves body horror, bodies getting dismembered, tongue turning into a snail, foreheads turning into a giant worm, grease coming out of a face. And every Junji Ito story does some form of body horror, and it's slow at first, but it gets exponentially worse and worse at the end as the film plays with its own rules, which is exactly what the substance does. It shows you a set of rules in the beginning. You must switch your bodies every 7 days. You only use the substance once. And as the film goes along, these rules starts to be bent, and you're like, okay, now I know how this film is going to go. In fact, this film really reminds me of the Junji Ito short story, The Enigma of the Amigara Fault, where you see these holes on a cliff and you're like, okay, I know what these holes are going to do, but I'm not ready to see what's going on the other side of the cliff. And then we see the other side of the cliff and we're like, fuck. That's exactly what happens here. We see a person and we don't want to see something else, and then that something else happens and you're like, okay, I know this is happening, but Jesus Christ. um Again, Dennis Quaid eating shrimp is still somehow one of the grossest scenes in the film, and I love movie scenes where characters eat food in disgusting or ravenous ways. In fact, I've been trying to do that in my own short films as well. This film also has amazing special effects makeup, and the sound design helps the grossness a lot. I also want to mention that this film reminds me of two songs. One is Mitski's Liquid Smooth, the other is Sophie's Face Shopping. I think is even more apt for this film. And with such a high concept, and again, by high concept, I mean easy concept, accessible. This film is 2.5 hours long, so how does one carry such a simple concept for so long? Not really. The act two of the film definitely slowed things down a little bit. And also, it's very obvious that the dialogues sound like they're written by a non native English speaker, but that's okay because the film is so ridiculous. It's so unbelievable. The dialogue doesn't have to sound natural. And then let's talk about the ending. Let's talk about the fucking ending. Holy shit. I feel like, this is like one of those moments in an anime where the anime character who is already really powerful was like, okay, this is a serious fight now, and removes their power limiter. This is what the ending feels like. It feels like Coralie Farja has removed her power limiter, and, she's writing the script, she's typing it on the laptop, and she's like, you know what? Why don't I make the ending as ridiculous and as insane as possible? Who's stopping me? No one's stopping me. So she did it, and I am shocked. And the ending basically concealed the deal that this is one of the best films of the year. Also, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go into spoilers. I'm going to go into spoilers right now. Spoiler alert. So the ending, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So I deadass thought that the movie's just going to end with Margaret Qualley taking over and doing the New Year's Eve thing. And then in the middle of doing the New Year's Eve thing, she just dies and something really gross happens. Maybe she explodes into a bunch of blood and gore. And then the movie ends. Because, Demi Moore shot her with the termination injection. So she's, Demi Moore's dead, and now Margaret Qualley's going to die at any point. I thought that's what's going to happen, and I was so ready for the movie to end that way. But no, that's not what happened. She starts losing her teeth, and she pulled out her nails, and her ear came off, and she's like, well, I'm going to shoot up the substance again. And that's so cool. The film in the beginning sets the rules. You can only use once. And now it's breaking the rules. And it's going to be gross. And so there's this one shot where, and it was such a short shot, but you see her eyes and the pupils are multiplying, and you're like, holy shit. And then for a few seconds, you can't see, or like for like half a minute, you can't see what she has become. So during those half a minute, during those 30 seconds ish, I was imagining what kind of monster she's gonna turn into, or she's gonna be born into because of the substance. I thought she's gonna be like many human beings cloned together, like a human being but with like 10 arms and 10 legs and 10 faces. And so she gets revealed in the mirror, and she is kind of like that, but in a way grosser way. Also, Demi Moore's face at the back, which is fucking insane. And to make matters worse, she doesn't just die there and then. She actually goes to the New Year's Eve thing and proceeds to spray the entire audience in blood, very much like The Shining or something. I mean, the hallway shot and the rush of blood. It's like very Shining esque. And I was like, okay, this is fucking. And it's just the film just dr- douses itself. It enjoys itself. It keeps showing the audience screaming, yelling for help. There's a little kid in the audience, and the mom is covering her eyes. And it's so crazy. I feel like I'm being sprayed with blood as well. And then the movie sort of does a full circle where the creature sort of turns into a blob and it just crawls over the Hollywood star and then it dissipates. And it's sort of like a full circle moment to the beginning of the film. And it's just such a crazy fucking ending. So, yeah, everyone clapped. And it is a rare thing that in a movie theater where everyone clapped after the film, unless the filmmaker is in the audience, then of course people would clap in support. But this time it's just a regular film screening and people still clapped. That's a huge deal. So yeah, this is one of the craziest fucking films I've seen all year, and I'm giving this one a light 9 out of 10. So have you watched The Substance? Comments below, let me know, subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.